Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To The Point. And tonight we are looking at how even in the farm to fork capital, families are going hungry every single night. So $1 million is now going into the hands of 17 community organizations right here in Sacramento. But according to the mayor, that's just scratching the surface. And just hours ago, the mayor said that there are still people suffering in very real ways who also need help.
We had over $5 million in requests, and maybe that tells you something as well. The need is greater, and I tell you, when we get that next dollar, this is going to continue to be a priority here in our city.
The money is coming from Congress's American Rescue Plan, and this is the first grant funding that has been given through a group called the Food Justice Task Force. And this issue, it does need to be addressed, because I want to share something for just a second. Sorry, it's hard not to get emotional when you see this really firsthand, but I did go to a breakfast with one of those community organizations who is receiving some of that money, and you'll hear from them in just a second. But I want to share that during this breakfast, I specifically remember one kid. He was maybe 10, 12 years old. He walked in alone. He just wanted to get some food, and he was very shy at first, and it took a little while before he finally told me he wanted some breakfast, and I served him a couple plates. I got to know this kid a little bit. He loves math, he loves science, and he wants to go to college when he grows up. And he just wanted someone to talk to, and he just needed some food. So when we say that people are going hungry, when we say that people are in need, we do need to be more straightforward, because there are so many kids who are going hungry. And organizations who are getting this new funding say that getting help, it shouldn't be complicated, because being hungry is enough.
That's what it looks like, is a kid who's agitated with low blood sugar, unable to concentrate, who's stressed out. When you're agitated, irritable, you're trying to figure out what's going on, and you're like 10. So food insecurity is a kid walking through the door who needs the physical and emotional support of a community and a hot meal that recognizes that there is a need, and without a lot of strings. No signing up for things, not asking personal information. Being hungry is enough.
Well, hunger looks like it's insidious, right? And so it's almost something that you can't really put your hand on, but it's there because a lot of people are embarrassed to admit that they are going hungry, or they don't have enough monies to make ends meet. And so it's a thing that you really don't see until it's there. It's right there. And so we're excited about this Food Justice Task Force, because it is putting the funds where it's needed the most at the ground level, so that we can get to it.
And many of the community-based organizations say that this money will help them with emergency food assistance, home boxes for kids who need food when their schools go on holiday breaks, and then all the supplies that it takes to feed so many people. And being in the farm to fork capital, there's a lot growing on trees right this minute. So citrus season is upon us, and one man is making sure that no fruit goes to waste. So take a look at this. Matthew Ampersand started the Find Out Farms community fruit program last year, and since then he has harvested close to 30,000 pounds of fruit and given it to those in need. So property owners with any kind of fruit tree in Sacramento can contact Find Out Farms and fill out a form. It's that simple. Then Matthew and his volunteers will come harvest the tree and bring that fruit to local food banks or a woman's shelter.
Since the pandemic started, the need for access to fresh, healthy food has increased dramatically. And there's definitely a need in the region. Simultaneously, there are hundreds of thousands of pounds of fruit going to waste. I mean, you could just turn around in a circle here and see at least 4 different fruit trees that are going to have more fruit than the home could use.
There's a volunteer meeting coming up tomorrow evening at 7 at the Colonial Heights Library. If you would like to volunteer, and you can also donate the fruit that is on your tree, we do have more information at abc10.com/links, or you can check out Community Fruit 916. They have an Instagram account that you can take a look at right now. And if you have been watching To The Point, you know that we are addressing the homelessness crisis. Sacramento City and County are now in a joint agreement for the first time to help solve the issue. But what happens next? The agreement includes 200 more shelter beds in a year, along with workers to go into encampments and sign people up for services. But those experiencing homelessness say that they are hesitant that this agreement will live up to its promises. And they say they've heard it all before.
It can be interesting, but where are they going to take it? What's the next step after that?
I was at Miller Park. I was at X Street, then they sent me over to the motel, then they lost funding, and I was back out here on the street again. So, I mean, they didn't do nothing for me.
The sentiment from people we spoke with today is that people living on the streets, they want something more permanent, like tiny homes. And we've heard from a lot of unhoused people that shelters, they just don't work for them, at least. And they said that they just end up back on the streets, as you just heard that gentleman say. So Sacramento County says that the most immediate changes we can see from the agreement will be an increase in outreach teams going into homeless communities, but they are also still developing a plan of action for protocols, work plans, and then timelines, of course, for everything. All right. And we've gotten a lot of feedback about our efforts being made to combat homelessness. A viewer wrote in saying, in part, I just wondered, what is the status with the old Capitol Park Hotel building? There has never been much information about this building, but plenty of money seems to be going into it. Question is, for what? Well, the city has ambitious plans for the next 107-year-old hotel to be transformed into permanent supportive housing to help with the homelessness crisis. They want to make more than 130 studio apartments. Mercy Housing began construction back in January of 2021, but structural issues made the construction very challenging. And this project has a price tag of more than $66 million. Sacramento City Council approved another $7 million in funding back in April of this year. And tax filings from 2020 show that each unit would cost more than $400,000. So we reached out to the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency for current updates, but we are still waiting to hear back. Of course, we'll have those details as soon as we get them. And last night, we brought you the story of one Oak Park senior who is planning to move out of her home that she's lived in for 9 years. She has been living at the Arbors at Oak Park. The building sits on the corner of Broadway and MLK Boulevard. Now, 2 cars have crashed into the building just in the past week, and since 2014, there have been at least 10 crashes involving this building, and some of them have even been deadly. And a resident has been asking for the city to help protect their homes. A lot of residents have been asking for this. And just this morning, we actually heard back from the city saying that they've installed things on the building this year to increase its visibility. So traffic signals have been changed to remove conflicting messages for people that are driving east and people crossing MLK Boulevard. They also said that tree limbs have also been cleared so people can actually see the traffic signals better. And they've done a lot of work. So, of course, we'll still continue to follow that.
All right, let's take a look at our highs. Today we reached those upper 50s and low 60s out there in the valley. Now the average this time of year, about 57 degrees, so we are pretty much on par with those temperatures, but we're going to see some big changes coming in through the weekend. Low 50s in Placerville, 52 in Jackson. Again, 57 for the average, but the overnight lows were still very chilly. This has been creating some areas of patchy fog. We saw that this morning. We're going to see a little bit more tomorrow morning. But remember, rain that is on the way. If you haven't heard that already, expect it by the afternoon hours tomorrow. We'll get a little patchy morning fog. Clouds will build tomorrow, and then that is when we start to see that rain arriving. Right now we're at 49 in Sacramento, 52 in Stockton, 49 in Modesto, 18 degrees in Tahoe. And taking a look at that fog in the morning, again, most of our fog right around the Bay Area. Then it drifts over toward I-5, and this is pretty much the extent of it. 5 to 6 miles in visibility, not too bad. I mean, we've had worse. Everyone else is doing pretty well into the lower foothill area spots there, so not bad. But we will get that rain by the afternoon hours. And I want to show you, we are going to see about 4 p.m. or so, some of that rain creating a line right down the middle there from about 80 north. And then we'll see that heavy rain creating anywhere from a tenth to maybe a quarter inch of rain. As we see into your Thursday, 10:30 a.m., clouds start to build up. Rain comes in just offshore, and as it moves in, it'll bring us quite a bit into the afternoon hours. But the biggest rain event we are going to see is going to be for the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, with showers and those thunderstorm chances. Now, with that, we're expected to see as much as, yes, listen here, 1 to 2 inches of rain in the valley Saturday. Could see additional rain into Sunday, but it's the mountain snow that's the biggest. We could see anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of snowfall expected, and that's what we're going to see on Saturday into Sunday. And then taking a look as we continue on next week, we'll get a couple of breaks before we see on Thursday and Friday potential for some more of that rain.
All right, Carly, thank you. Coming up next, our Firepower Money team has been working to hold PG&E accountable for years. So after the break, we have an exclusive interview with the company's former top state regulator on what changes need to be made.
So PG&E's lawyers wrote the law that allowed them to get away with murder. That's absolutely horrifying.
And that is Steve Bradley, the grandson of one of PG&E's 84 manslaughter victims from the 2018 Camp Fire. He's one of many survivors and victims of PG&E fires, outraged at what we found in our 4-year-long Firepower Money investigation. And the law he's talking about, AB 1054, was advanced by Governor Gavin Newsom. It protected PG&E from all the financial consequences of its crimes. The state passed the law, and then PG&E pleaded guilty to 85 felonies. So tonight, the woman who used to be PG&E's top state regulator tells our Brandon Ritteman the law raises the stakes for customers as PG&E faces manslaughter charges.
PG&E has become a rogue criminal corporation that acts only for itself and always tries to increase its profits and wring every penny it can out of its customers.
Loretta Lynch used to be PG&E's top state regulator, leading the California Public Utilities Commission. She was CPUC president in the early 2000s.
No one is holding PG&E to account. If we don't have real consequences for PG&E's criminal actions, then PG&E will never change, and we, Californians, will always be at risk.
Part of the thing that keeps me up at night after investigating this for 4 years is the question of how big of a thing will they have to burn down in order to actually generate accountability.
You know, that's what I thought after San Bruno.
This gas pipeline ruptured in San Bruno. The explosion and fire killed 8 people. PG&E was convicted of 6 felony charges.
While on federal probation for its San Bruno crimes, PG&E started the Camp Fire, pleading guilty to more crimes.
Well, now surely the PUC and the legislature and the governor will hold PG&E to account. And very sadly, that didn't happen.
The federal judge in charge of PG&E's criminal probation for the gas explosion started to demand answers about power lines. Lynch had left the CPUC before San Bruno, but she says the probation was a golden opportunity for her former agency to get some help, forcing PG&E to change.
I was astonished, however, that the California Public Utilities Commission would come into Judge Alsup's court and argue for lower standards. What the PUC said was, Judge, what you're ordering is just way too hard for little PG&E to have to deal with. Let them do what we've ordered, which is a whole lot less. So the PUC was advocating on PG&E's behalf.
PG&E's probation under federal judge William Alsup expired in early 2022, even though the company went on a crime spree, in his words. He said PG&E will emerge from probation as a continuing menace to California. PG&E didn't comment when we asked them to respond to that.
And the judge called them a rogue corporation, because that's what they are, because the PUC is not doing its job, and Sacramento isn't making it do its job.
So PG&E has a problem, it's criminal, and the state is playing enabler.
Absolutely. The state of California moved mountains and weakened the law in order to protect the ability of PG&E to make a profit as a for-profit corporation.
The CPUC didn't respond to our request for comment. Lynch was disappointed to see local DAs settle the Dixie and Kincaid fires this past year without criminal charges. But Shasta County is still moving ahead with 4 new charges of manslaughter in the 2020 Zog fire.
No one should have to go through that. No one.
Zach McLeod's wife and their 8-year-old daughter are among the 4 people killed. PG&E pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of manslaughter and other charges. The preliminary hearing is set for January 2023. Lynch says the outcome matters beyond justice for the victims because of AB 1054, Governor Newsom's safety certificate law.
Now, if they cause a wildfire, the customers pay for the damages and not the utilities. So it's this golden ticket. Whatever they do, unless essentially they're criminally negligent, is going to be paid for by their customers.
Because PG&E wasn't held criminally liable for the 1,000 or so homes destroyed in the Dixie Fire, those civil damages could cost customers. Meantime, PG&E fell under yet another criminal investigation in the past year, the Mosquito Fire. Arson investigators from the U.S. Forest Service seized parts of this PG&E transmission line where the fire started. If it was caused by PG&E, it would be the 6th year in a row the company started a large fire that destroyed homes.
You already know, Brandon's back with us, and I think the first question I want to ask you is, if I am a PG&E customer, when I look at my bill, am I already paying for this?
Yeah, you are. So AB 1054 created a pot of money, an insurance fund run by the state, and customers pay for half of that $21 billion of state insurance. It was turned into bonds and then charged a little bit at a time each month. If you look on your bill, you'll see a wildfire fund charge. That's the front end of all this, okay?
So people could already see that on their bill right now.
Yeah, we're sort of pre-funding fire damage through that. That's available. That fund is available to PG&E and the other two big for-profit utilities in California. And so on the back end, the question becomes, who's responsible for paying that fund back if it had to pay out wildfire damages? And that is where AB 1054 presumes that PG&E acted reasonably. It's one of the reasons that you just heard Loretta Lynch say it matters whether they're convicted of a crime, because if you're convicted of a crime, it's pretty hard to argue that what you did was reasonable.
Yeah.
Still technically possible, but we don't need to get into all that. The point is, there's a whole process on the back end that, believe it or not, is decided by the California Earthquake Authority. Not making that up. They deal with big insurance, so they got this job. And that's going to determine whether PG&E's customers have to pay back into the fund or whether the shareholders will have to take it out of their profits.
And the last thing you mentioned in the piece was the Mosquito Fire.
Mm-hmm.
What do we know right now with the investigation? Anything?
It's a federal case. We think of the Forest Service as Smokey Bear, but they also are cops. So they do arson investigations. And as part of the one on the Mosquito Fire, they actually seized an entire pole, a big steel pole, took out of the ground as evidence in part of their arson investigation, along with other pieces of equipment from that 60,000 volt PG&E line that runs there. And one of the reasons it's particularly troubling is this wasn't a particularly old pole. PG&E says it was about a decade old and subject to all their new ways of doing things. So it raises the question of whether their new way of doing things is actually, better.
Well, I guess we'll be following this with Brandon. Again, thank you so much. And this interview is just a sliver of Brandon's reporting on PG&E's involvement with multiple deadly wildfires. You can catch the hour-long Firepower Money special, How California's Government Protects PG&E, tonight at 8 on our ABC 10 Plus app, on Roku and Amazon Fire, and then right here on ABC 10 next Saturday. Mark your calendars for December 17th at 10 p.m. right here on ABC 10. All right, let's take a look outside, get another check of our forecast, see what's coming up for tomorrow. What's new, what's next? We're going to see a lot of fog, and then we have more rain and snow on the way. Another check of your 10-day forecast here. What better way to spread holiday cheer than giving people cheap gas? I'm not joking. The Woodland Gas Plaza lowered their prices to $2.99 a gallon today. And the owners say that they wanted to do something to help out the community during these hard times, and say, we're happy because our customers are happy. It's a small gas station, just 6 pumps. So there has been quite a line of people very grateful to get some gas.
I'm very grateful that he decided to do it. At least he's exhibiting a conscience. I don't really think there's a real reason for us paying these huge gas prices.
I'm amazed, honestly. I don't think I'm ever going to see $2.99 gas in my life ever again. So yeah, I got here as quick as I could.
I don't think I'll ever see it again in my lifetime either. All right, as of today, Woodland Gas Plaza has the cheapest gas in California. Let's hope that the holiday spirit spreads some to the other gas stations as well. All right, earlier in the show, we did mention that we were bringing you stories of local same-sex couples. The number of LGBTQ plus households in the U.S. has reached a historic milestone. We will have that story for you tomorrow. Of course, let us know if you have anything you want us to look into. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you tomorrow night. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.